Family betrayed me and kicked me out, now karma got them, dad is killed, and mom sentenced to life. I do not care if my mom is going to get mad, her husband needs to leave. I have tried to get along with him, but it is impossible. I'm constantly made to feel as if I'm inferior and a burden in this house. I have not spoken up in all the years that he has lived here, but he has been testing me, and this time I'm not going to take it. I know that my mother is going to call me as soon as she wakes up. That gives me a couple of hours due to the difference in time zone. I am prepared to stand my ground, even if it means I have to give her an ultimatum. She's not going to guilt trip me like she has done all these years. She's not going to force me to make peace with the wrong people. Anyone can see that my stepdad is entitled and disrespectful. How could he move his daughter into my house without permission? I'm sure it sounds ridiculous to you, as it does to me. His daughter is 23 years old, has a job, and is a mother. She does not need to stay with us. That is what I told him 2 weeks ago because she kept on sleeping over for long periods. It felt like she was moving in, so I suggested that she start chipping in. He said that he needed to spend time with her and that I was just being jealous. So, I decided to keep quiet for the sake of my sanity. After that, it was an issue of so-called privacy. Can you believe this girl was demanding privacy from me? This is my parents' house and not hers. She got mad at me because I walked into the living room while she was on a video call. She then asked me to leave because it was a private phone call. I told her that there were many other rooms where she could take the call, so I was not going to leave. She then threw a massive tantrum, which her dad did not allow me to hear the end of. When she left, I told him that I was upset about her blatant disrespect. She was starting to make herself too much at home and making me feel uncomfortable. So, I suggested that from now on they meet when I'm not at home or at her house. He got mad, he raised his voice at me and called me an ungrateful brat. He told me that this was because of my daddy issues. He said it was clear I was acting like this because I did not get enough attention. I was shocked at the audacity of this man. How dare he bring my father into this? So, I did what his daughter had done to me. I went and told my mother what he said. I guess it was too much to ask her to take my side. She told me that I misunderstood him and that we should apologize to each other. I refused to apologize to him, so I had been ignoring him for the past week. When my mom came back, I was planning to tell her that they would either move out or I would. After all, it is my father's house and my childhood home. But now it looks like a decision has to be made because this man went and did the most outrageous thing. I came home to find my stuff packed and outside. Attached to one of my suitcases was a note from my stepfather saying that I left him no other choice. He was tired of my attitude, he was not going to choose between his daughter and me. So, it was clear that I needed to leave. It was so sad how our relationship had changed so quickly. When he first married my mom, he was a very good man. He did his best to be a father to me. We were very close, and I could come to him with any problem. And then one day, his daughter visited us. She had just moved to town and started to spend a lot more time with her dad. I was excited to have another sibling, especially a girl, so I did all I could to make her feel welcome and like my sister. From the very beginning, I could see that she was not interested. She acted like she liked me in front of our parents, but when they were not there, she ignored me and pretended that I was not in her league. I said nothing of this to either of them. I just decided to distance myself from her and not make a big deal of it. Fast forward to now, she has basically infiltrated my home, and my so-called stepfather has dropped his facade of being a good dad. I guess he has gotten so comfortable that his true colors are now coming out. I think he's also taking advantage of the fact that my mother is currently out of the country. My mother is often out of the country for months on end due to her line of work. She recently went back to work, she took a long break when my father passed away, and she had to take care of me. She ran a small business to support us, but after getting married, she decided that she wanted to give her career one more shot. I'm old enough to take care of myself, and my stepfather is here to help if anything is needed. I was very supportive of her decision and very proud of her. Now I regret letting her go. It seems it has given my stepdad the courage to start mistreating me. That would explain why he has decided to move Sarah into the house and kick me out. The rest of the note went on to explain that I would only come back into the house if I apologized to my stepsister. If I did not, then I would have to look for my own place to stay. He refused to stay with someone who disturbed the peace and had no manners. Manners? He wanted to talk about manners when he was a spoiled brat and had no manners. I will show him manners, though I'm not sure what I'm going to do about this. But I'm not going to be kicked out of my house by a man who didn't buy it. Instead, I'm going to talk to my mother and let her know what happened. I'm going to tell her that my stepsister is not moving in. She is going to have to listen to me for once. I am not going to listen to her, she has to listen to me. I am the one who has to stay with these people 24/7. What I do next is dependent on her answer. Either solve this peacefully or start to have problems as a family. I would rather go with the former than the latter. Do you think that I am overreacting? Do you think that maybe I'm doing this out of jealousy? I am trying to get as much perspective as possible about this. What could justify kicking a person out without notice while they are at work? Is that not disrespect? Is that not unchecked audacity? The more I think about this, the madder I get. I think I'm done being nice. What do you think I should do? Update: thank you all for your responses and comments. Rest assured that I've read everything that you've written. I have calmed down since the incident. I believe that the decision I've made is the best one at this point. I've tried to be an adult and polite, however, the people I'm dealing with do not respect that. When I called my mother as soon as she woke up, I wasted no time telling her what had been done to me. I expected her to be at least surprised and maybe an AG. I got none of that. Instead, she asked what I did wrong. She said that she was not surprised because David, my stepdad, had warned her about this. David told my mother that I had been rude and impossible to live with. I was mad to find out that David had been lying to my mother. So then I asked her where her loyalty stood. Was it with her daughter or the man she married? She said it had nothing to do with that, her loyalty was to our family as a unit. She told me that David had told her he was going to move his daughter in. Apparently, he spoke to me about it, and I told him that I would rather move out. So on the day that he moved his daughter in, he packed my stuff and kicked me out. There, you heard it straight. David and my mother planned to kick me out and replace me with his no-good daughter. I told my mother that I was highly disappointed in her decision-making. I also accused her of loving her new family over me. Clearly, she was trying to erase her past, which was me, and embrace her future, which was my stepdad and his daughter. She tried to deny it, but I wanted to hear none of her words. I told her that before I did anything severe, I was going to give her a chance to correct this. I let her know that they would have 24 hours to leave my father's house before I kicked them out single-handedly. And if they left, they could never come back. The only person who would be allowed back into the house was her. She lost it and actually tried to pin the whole thing on me. She said that I was changing and becoming ungrateful. She asked me how long I was going to push the people who cared about me away. Can you believe that she actually accused me of having a substance abuse problem? She was convinced that I was taking something that was making me feel irrational. It almost made me want to laugh. David's long game had actually worked. He had succeeded in getting my mother alone and kicking me out of the house. Of course, he has to be the stereotypical step-parent. I hung up on my mother and got ready for work. At work, I could hardly focus without music. Every time I didn't have music on, I was thinking about my conversation with my mother. I actually started to shake as I was thinking about this. The next thing I knew, I was having a full-blown panic attack. I have not had a panic attack since my father's memorial service. It was very hard for me to believe that he was gone, and I kept on dreaming about him. Then I saw someone at the memorial service who looked like him but turned to someone else. Now those two wanted to separate me from the last thing that I had of him. I was not going to take this lying down. That house was not theirs, it was my father's. Update: can you believe that my stepfather had no idea that the house was in my name? You should have seen the look on his face when I kicked him and his stupid daughter out. It felt so good to get rid of that trash. They had shown their true colors, and I acted accordingly. I agree with the theory that someone in the comments had. My stepfather saw a woman who had assets. She had a very beautiful and big house. She was a widow but with a daughter. Now, that would be a problem. The daughter could easily influence her to leave him. The daughter would also get in the way of him getting the house in his name. So, what did he do? He pretended to be a good person and earned my trust. When he suggested that my mom get back into her career, I backed him. I thought I'd be safe back here with him, and thus he successfully separated us. Once we were separated, it was time for him to use his daughter to make me feel unwelcome. He started to withdraw from me emotionally and showed affection to his daughter. That would lead to my complaining, getting mad, and acting irrationally. He assumed that the house was in my mother's name, so his main goal was to get me kicked out for basically being a burden. My mother would believe it because she had only ever seen him be kind to me. She trusted him with her life. She would sooner believe that her daughter was being hostile towards her stepdaughter. She would never believe that the man she married wasn't good. One thing my mother hates is being wrong. He knows that, and he uses it to trick her. His last part was probably to live in that house with his daughter while my mother was away. He would probably get her to get the house in his name in a couple of months. Soon after, he will divorce her and get half of her assets, or he would get rid of her and cash out. But then again, some of you wanted to play devil's advocate. Of course, I had to hear you out and set the record straight. There was someone who said I could have prevented this if I had just allowed my stepsister to stay with me. She would have to be a nice person that I can live with for me to do that. She was not. She was the worst. Whenever she used the kitchen, she did not clean up after herself. Whenever she was around, money went missing in the house. Whenever she was around, the house was always a mess. She went into my room without my permission several times and used my things. I know this because I have a particular order in which I leave my things. I can easily notice if someone touches my things. So, no, I was not going to live with someone like that permanently. Now, let's go back to what happened earlier this week. I went and got all the paperwork I needed for me to make this eviction legal. I was not going to play around and leave any loopholes for them to come back. It took me a while, but everything got fast-tracked with the help of a friend of mine. As soon as I got everything in order, I went to the house. I knocked, and my stepsister opened the door. She tried to shut it in my face and told me that I was not welcomed. I pretended to be sad and said that I was there to apologize. She was very confused because this was so out of character for me. Her dad then came from behind her and asked what I was doing there. I then let them know that they had about 8 hours to get everything that belonged to them out of the house. I was actually being quite generous because he had a lot of furniture in the house. I told him that I would be back. I also showed him the court order. I told him that if he did not pack his things, I would have to forcefully remove him. I would throw out anything that he held of value. My only concern would be getting the scum out of my house. I was dead serious when I said that, but he did not seem to take me seriously. He told me that I could not do this without my mother's permission. He told me that everything that I had done was illegal, and he was going to get me arrested. So, I told him to make all the calls that he wanted. The only thing they would do was make him look like a fool. They left the keys with a neighbor and were nowhere to be found. They thought they were going to get me kicked out of my childhood home. The illusion between those two is enough to make a soap opera. Anyway, I'll let myself relax lounging in my father's house without anyone interrupting me. The past couple of days have been hard for me, and I need to relax. Update: how foolish was I to think that everything was over? My mother decided that she was going to punish me because she did not get her way. I had been ignoring her calls for days because I had nothing to say to her. About 2 weeks later, she struck for the first time. I went for an appointment to get my teeth checked out. Once I was done, I found out that I had to pay for everything out of pocket. My dentist alerted me to the fact that my medical insurance was not valid. This was a surprise to me because I'd always been insured. When I made a few calls, I found out that my mother had removed me as a beneficiary of her medical insurance. She did not even let me know so that I could get my insurance. I'm sure she did this so that when I went for an appointment, I would have to pay out of pocket. The cost of the appointment set me back. When I saw what she did, I was pissed off, but I was not going to give her the satisfaction. If she wanted to talk, then she would come back home, and we would talk face to face. Since she wanted to rely on someone who was not even related to her, I owed her nothing. I got my insurance sorted out. After that, I decided to sign her out of all of my streaming subscriptions. My mother was not one for technology. She had gotten into streaming because of me. When she found out that some of her favorite all-time shows were online, she asked me to help her set up an account. I wanted to save money, so I decided to add her to mine. Since she was already doing so much for me, I guess one would say we had quite a symbiotic relationship. And that is why our breakup is so messy. I know it's weird for me to describe my mom and fighting as a breakup. It kind of feels like that because we have always relied on each other. That is until she let a man get in between us. After that, it was very hard for me to trust her. When my mom found out that her streaming platforms were not working, she decided to email me. She sent me quite a passive-aggressive and formal email. This time I responded to her and told her that her services had been cancelled because she could not pay my bills. If I had to pay my medical bills, then she would have to pay for her subscription services. I could imagine how upset and angry she was. I could play that game. I could also be petty. I learned from the best, her. By the time she went to cancel anything that linked me to her, I'd already removed myself. Sure, she had been supporting me financially in some areas of my life. She's the one who insisted because she did not want me to leave the nest, but it was clear that now she was kicking me out of the nest. But I knew that my greatest battle was yet to come, for she was coming back home in a month. I knew that she was going to put up a big fight for the house, and I was prepared. I will not go to stand down no matter what trick she had up her sleeve. It was just so sad that we had been pitted against each other by her husband. Now more than ever, I wish that my father was still alive. He was always the buffer between us when our tempers rose. He always knew the right way to solve conflict and leave everyone happy. I'm sure that he would not want us to be fighting over all this. But she made her choice, and it broke my heart. I am her baby. How could she do this to me? Update: I am writing this with a broken heart. This is one of the few times that my mother is wrong, and I am right. I wish that it was the opposite. Now my mother is lying in the hospital after suffering from a heart attack. I pray that they find David and make him pay for this. I knew that he could not be trusted, but I never knew that his heart was so cold. My mom took so long to get back into the dating game and trust any man. So why did he have to break her heart like this? It had been about 2 months since my mom returned from overseas. When she came back, we fought over the house. But ultimately, the house was mine. She tried to take me to court, but the judge overruled her. So she moved out and got an apartment with David. We had no contact for those 2 months. In the beginning, I was victorious because I had got the house to myself. I felt like I had won against them. But after a while, I started to feel quite sad. I missed my mom so much. I've not been away from her for such a long time, and it had been killing me. But pride got the better of me, and I decided not to contact her. I wish I had reached out even once. Maybe she would have opened up to me. Maybe I would have seen the signs that this man was slowly taking over everything that she owned. By the time we spoke, he had emptied all of her bank accounts and had already left the apartment. She came back to find that he had taken all of his essential belongings. He left her a note, thanking her for the money and letting her know that she should have trusted me. He also confessed that his daughter was not his daughter. Instead, she was his partner. This was too much for my mother to take. She started to cry. She could not eat. She could not talk, and could not leave the house. Someone at work noticed that she had not been in the office for a while, so they called me and asked me about her. I told them that I was not in contact with her, and she stopped talking to me. The next thing I knew, I was getting a call from the hospital to let me know that my mother had collapsed. She had gone to the store and randomly gotten a heart attack. When I went to her apartment and looked through her stuff, I found the letter that he left her. That monster earned her trust and then took everything that she had ever worked for, including the trust. She is awake, and I have been speaking to her. She has told me everything that she knows, and I have filed a complaint with the cops. There is not much hope of finding them. I have given the cops all the information that I have, but now all I can do is be by my mother's side as she fights for her health. I wish I had not listened to my stupid head. I should have listened to those of you who told me not to throw away my relationship with my mother over a house. Maybe I should have reached out and apologized to her. Maybe I should have investigated David before I even allowed him to put a ring on my mother. There are so many things that I regret. Have you ever done something so drastic that has changed the trajectory of your life? Update: Hey everyone, I was not sure that I was going to post another update. My main focus was just going to be on my mom and helping her heal. But I feel like I owe it to all of you to let you know about the latest development. The cops worked overtime to find David and Sarah. It turned out that those were not even their names. Sarah was not 23 years old, she was a decade older. They have been scamming people all over the country for several years now. They managed to trace them to a certain city, but by the time they got there, they found out that the two had managed to escape. It was believed that they had escaped to a country where there was no extradition. That meant that they got away with it. As you can imagine, my mother and I were not happy about this at all. We were furious and heartbroken. We felt as if the whole world had just failed us. So, I just focused on nursing my mother back to health and rebuilding the trust in our relationship. Until the day we got the call. David was no more, and Sarah was in police custody. According to her, he has been killed in a deal that went wrong. Someone called the cops, and she was taken in as a witness. Her prints matched her real name in the system. They also linked her to several cases of fraud and embezzlement. The cops were then able to determine that this was the Sarah we had been looking for. As for David, it is believed that he bled out for several minutes before he met his end. Sarah panicked and did not call, so she tried to save him to no avail, which was when someone saw what was happening and called the cops. By the time the cops arrived, she was in too much shock to do anything but go with them. I think that I'm going to visit her as soon as I can. I need to look her in the eye after what she did. I want to see remorse reflected on her face. If I do not see that, then she will wish she had met David's fate. First of all, I want to thank all of you for the support that you have given me through this difficult time. It has not been easy to get my mother back to health. This is not her first heart attack. It scared me and made me feel that I was going to lose her. Trust me, I regret every petty thing that I have done. As for her, she is very sorry as well. She regrets taking David's side. She has promised that from now on, she is going to be very cautious when it comes to strangers. It is about a day since Sarah was sentenced. She got a life sentence because of the severity of her crimes. It appears that she has been doing this for several years. When asked why she and David returned to the country, it was because of an ex of David who had left him a substantial amount of money. This was someone that he had done a romance scam on. It appears that she forgot to remove him from her will. He took the risk because of greed. Even though Sarah tried to stop him, when he arrived to meet with the lawyer, he was ambushed by this woman's sons. They are the ones who attacked him and killed him. As they say, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. This was coming to him sooner or later. I'm glad that he cannot harm anyone else. And where he is gone, he will repent for everything that he has done. Just because he's not in jail does not mean that he's escaped punishment. As for Sarah, she is going to grow old in that jail. She's going to die in that jail and will never breathe free air ever again. She got what she deserved, and I'm very satisfied. I told my mother about my posts, and she wanted me to include a little piece of advice for parents. She wanted to say that things like this are more common than one might think. She suggested that parents should always make sure that their kids are taken care of before they remarry. At least my dad had made sure that my name was on the title deeds of the house. Otherwise, we would have lost the house to them. She also said that you should be careful who you let into your house because they might not be who you think they are. I agree with her. As we have all learned, at least we got lucky. I have heard of people who do not get as lucky as us, and I feel so sorry for them.